Hey everyone, it's Alex, and I am here today to bring you the nominations for the 74th Golden Globe Awards. Please excuse my voice. I'm currently trying to get over a cold, but I'm not going to let that stop me getting these videos out. Now, usually the Golden Globe Awards have been the first award show to kick off award season. However, things are a little bit different this year because this year, of course, the Critics' Choice Awards were the first award show to kick off award season. So now the Golden Globes will be the second. Now, the 74th Golden Globe Awards are scheduled to take place on Sunday, January 8th, and on NBC at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, and will be hosted by Jimmy Fallon. And as I said in my video I posted back over the summer, I think Jimmy Fallon is going to be an excellent choice as host for the Golden Globes. But now let's talk about the actual nominees. Now, the Golden Globe Awards are put on by the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, which is made up of about 85 to 90 foreign journalists who write for entertainment magazines and newspapers in their home country. Basically the Polish or the Japanese equivalent of Entertainment Weekly or the Hollywood Reporter. So this is a lot different from the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, which does the Oscars, where their membership is not only much larger, about 7,000 or so, but their membership is made up of actual filmmaking professionals, actors, directors, writers, etc. Now, of course, the Golden Globes, they're both celebrated and scorned for the type of nominees they usually have, because sometimes there are nominees that are thrown in there just for pure popularity reasons to ensure that the ceremony is as star-studded as possible, but the Golden Globes are still looked at and analyzed very thoroughly because a lot of the time things that are nominated at the Golden Globes go on to be nominated at the Screen Actors Guild Awards, the BAFTA Awards, and of course the Academy Awards or the Oscars. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to read off all the nominees for the Golden Globe Awards for both television and film, since they honor both mediums. I'm just going to read through all the nominees first and refrain from making any comments about what I like or don't like about the nominations. And then once I'm done getting through all of them, then I will go over them and analyze them and tell you what I like and what I don't like about them, and who I feel was snubbed out and should have been included. So let's get started. We'll begin with the television categories first. Best Actor in a Television Series, Comedy or Musical: Anthony Anderson, Blackish; Gael Garcia Bernal, Mozart in the Jungle; Donald Glover, Atlanta; Nick Nolte, Graves; Jeffrey Tambor, Transparent. Best Actress in a Television Series, Comedy or Musical: Rachel Bloom, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend; Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Veep; Sarah Jessica Parker, Divorce; Issa Rae, Insecure; Gina Rodriguez, Jane the Virgin; Tracee Ellis Ross, Blackish. Best Actor in a Television Series, Drama: Rami Malek, Mr. Robot; Bob Odenkirk, Better Call Saul; Matthew Rhys, The Americans; Liev Schreiber, Ray Donovan; Billy Bob Thornton, Goliath. Best Actress in a Television Series, Drama: Katrina Balfe, Outlander; Claire Foy, The Crown; Kerry Russell, The Americans; Winona Ryder, Stranger Things; Evan Rachel Wood, Westworld. Best Actor in a Limited Series or Motion Picture Made for Television: Riz Ahmed, The Night Of; Bryan Cranston, All the Way; Tom Hiddleston, The Night Manager; John Turturro, The Night Of; Courtney B. Vance, The People vs. O.J. Simpson, American Crime Story. Best Actress in a Limited Series or Motion Picture Made for Television: Felicity Huffman, American Crime; Riley Keough, The Girlfriend Experience; Sarah Paulson, The People vs. O.J. Simpson, American Crime Story; Charlotte Rampling, London Spy; Kerry Washington, Confirmation. Best Supporting Actor in a Series, Limited Series, or Motion Picture Made for Television: Sterling K. Brown, The People vs. O.J. Simpson, American Crime Story. Hugh Laurie, The Night Manager. John Lithgow, The Crown. Christian Slater, Mr. Robot. John Travolta, The People vs. O.J. Simpson, American Crime Story. Best Supporting Actress in a Series, Limited Series, or Motion Picture Made for Television. Olivia Colman, The Night Manager. Lena Headey, Game of Thrones. Chrissy Metz, This Is Us. Mandy Moore, This Is Us. Tandy Newton, Westworld. Best Television Series, Comedy, or Musical. Atlanta. Blackish. Mozart in the Jungle. Transparent. Veep. Best Television Series, Drama. The Crown. Game of Thrones. Stranger Things. This Is Us. Westworld. Best Limited Series or Motion Picture Made for Television. American Crime. The Dresser. The Night Manager. The Night of. The People vs. O.J. Simpson, American Crime Story. And now onto the film nominations. Best Original Score Motion Picture. Johan Johansson, Arrival. Hans Zimmer, Pharrell Williams, and Benjamin Wallfish, Hidden Figures. Justin Hurwitz, La La Land. Dustin O'Halloran and Hauschka, Lion. Nicholas Bertel, Moonlight. Best Original Song Motion Picture. Can't Stop the Feeling from Trolls, music and lyrics by Justin Timberlake, Max Martin, and Shellback. City of Stars from La La Land, music by Justin Hurwitz, lyrics by Benj Pasek and Justin Paul. Faith from Sing, music and lyrics by Ryan Tedder, Stevie Wonder, and Francis Farewell Starlight. Gold from Gold, music and lyrics by Brian Burton, Stephen Gaghan, Daniel Pemberton, and Iggy Pop. How Far I'll Go from Moana, music and lyrics by Lin-Manuel Miranda. Best Animated Feature. Kubo and the Two Strings, Moana, My Life as a Zucchini, Sing, Zootopia. Best Foreign Language Film. Divines, France. Elle, France. Neruda, Chile. The Salesman, Iran and France. Tony Erdmann, Germany. Best Screenplay Motion Picture. Taylor Sheridan, Hell or High Water. Damien Chazelle, La La Land. Kenneth Lonergan, Manchester by the Sea. Barry Jenkins, Moonlight. Tom Ford, Nocturnal Animals. Best Supporting Actor in a Motion Picture. Mahershala Ali, Moonlight. Jeff Bridges, Hell or High Water. Simon Helberg, Florence Foster Jenkins. Dev Patel, Lion. Aaron Taylor Johnson, Nocturnal Animals. Best Supporting Actress in a Motion Picture. Viola Davis, Fences. Naomi Harris, Moonlight. Nicole Kidman, Lion. Octavia Spencer, Hidden Figures. Michelle Williams, Manchester by the Sea. Best Actor in a Motion Picture, Comedy, or Musical. Colin Farrell, The Lobster. Ryan Gosling, La La Land. Hugh Grant, Florence Foster Jenkins. Jonah Hill, War Dogs. Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool. Best Actress in a Motion Picture, Comedy, or Musical. Annette Bening, 20th Century Women. Lily Collins, Rules Don't Apply. Haley Steinfeld, The Edge of 17. Emma Stone, La La Land. Meryl Streep, Florence Foster Jenkins. Best Actor in a Motion Picture, Drama. Casey Affleck, Manchester by the Sea. Joel Edgerton, Loving. Andrew Garfield, Hacksaw Ridge. Viggo Mortensen, Captain Fantastic. Denzel Washington, Fences. Best Actress in a Motion Picture, Drama. Amy Adams, Arrival. Jessica Chastain, Miss Sloane. Isabelle Huppert, Elle. Ruth Negga, Loving. Natalie Portman, Jackie. Best Director Motion Picture: Mel Gibson, Hacksaw Ridge; Damien Chazelle, La La Land; Kenneth Lonergan, Manchester by the Sea; Barry Jenkins, Moonlight; Tom Ford, Nocturnal Animals. Best Motion Picture Comedy or Musical: Deadpool; Florence Foster Jenkins, La La Land; Sing Street; 20th Century Women. And finally, Best Motion Picture Drama: Hacksaw Ridge, Hell or High Water; Lion; Manchester by the Sea; Moonlight. And those are the nominees for the 74th Golden Globe Awards. So, what do I think of the nominations? I like these for the most part, although there are some very notable snubs and omissions. So, into the television side, I'm not going to be able to give as much in-depth analysis because I pay more attention to movies than television, but there are definitely some things I can talk about. I'm very glad to see the love for Blackish in the comedy categories. I've watched some episodes of that show, and it's a very funny show. All the nominations for Anthony Anderson, Tracee Ellis Ross, and the show itself are very well deserved. I haven't really seen too much of Transparent, but I've seen some clips on YouTube, and it looks really good. And Jeffrey Tambor's gotten all sorts of praise for his performance on that show. He's won a Golden Globe 2 years ago for that show, and he's also won 2 Emmys for that show. I've heard a lot of great things about Atlanta, but I still have to see it. But Donald Glover was in my favorite movie of 2015, which was The Martian. I honestly have never heard of Graves. That I had to look it up after these nominations came out, and apparently it's on a channel called Epix, which I've never heard of. I guess it must be pretty good, but I wouldn't be surprised if Nick Nolte's nominated here just because he's Nick Nolte. You know, again, as I talked about earlier, celebrity name recognition. And then Mozart in the Jungle. I haven't seen it, but I'm surprised to see it on here again because the Golden Globes have a reputation of honoring a show one year and then completely ignoring it the next. Because Mozart in the Jungle won for Best Actor in a TV Series, Comedy or Musical, and Best TV Series, Comedy or Musical for like its first season. And so there was the big fear that it would be completely ignored the next time around, but nope, it's back in both categories. Yeah, I still have to see a full episode of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. I've seen some clips. It looks really funny, and it's a musical series as well, and they write like all original songs. Julia Louis-Dreyfus is just a big juggernaut. She's won 5 Emmys in a row for Veep, but she still has not won a Golden Globe for this role, interestingly enough. So yeah, so who knows, could this finally be her year due to the fact that in the last season of Veep, her character, who was the president, had to go through a re-election, and of course we just had a real-life election where a woman was one of the major candidates, so that could certainly influence Globes voters to maybe give it to her. But then you have Sarah Jessica Parker, who is a Golden Globes darling because she won like, I think 4 Golden Globes for Sex and the City, you know, back in the day, because it's very rare for the Golden Globes to honor a person again and again, like the Emmys do, but Sarah Jessica Parker is one of the few exceptions of somebody who would just always keep winning at the Golden Globes because they just loved Sex and the City that much, or at least her performance in it. I've heard Divorce is a meh show, that the performances are good, but the show itself is not what it could be for HBO. And with these drama nominees, I've barely seen any of them. I just don't have a lot of time to watch these shows, but I've heard great things about all of them, especially Stranger Things. Admittedly, when I saw trailers for it at like movie theaters before they showed the actual movie trailers, I wasn't really that impressed, but then everyone, including my closest friends, have told me, no, it's amazing, you gotta watch it. So I do have Netflix, so hopefully during the Christmas holidays I'll find time to sit down and watch it. So I can't really say too much about who's deserving and who's not deserving. I'm pretty sure if Rami Malek were not nominated here, there'd be a lot of outrage, considering he did win the Emmy earlier this fall. He was probably the most anticipated nominee in this category. Although I feel bad even though I haven't really seen too much of it, but given it's a political show and it deals directly with the power of the presidency, I'm very surprised to see that there's nothing in here at all for House of Cards, for the show itself, or for Kevin Spacey and Robin Wright, since most critics just absolutely love them for that show. But they've both won Golden Globes before, so maybe the voters felt they've been awarded enough and it's time for someone new. Now, with limited series and TV movies, these are the categories where I have seen quite a number of the nominees. The People vs. O.J. Simpson, American Crime Story, there's no surprise that it's gotten so many nominations, and deservedly so. Every one of the nominations is deserving. Courtney B. Vance, Sarah Paulson, Sterling K. Brown, John Travolta. The show itself, you could probably nominate everyone from that show at all these award shows, but of course if you did, then you'd be shutting out all the other worthy people as well, so you gotta find the right balance. But I wouldn't be surprised if People vs. O.J. Simpson wins all of these categories. Of course, for supporting actor, only Sterling K. Brown or John Travolta can end up winning unless they somehow both manage to tie. But I wouldn't be surprised if at the very least Courtney B. Vance, Sarah Paulson, and the show itself win. Given that there's only about 85 to 90 voters, you never know what surprises there are, and there are quite a lot of surprises at the Golden Globes. I often wonder how many times someone wins by maybe just 1 or 2 votes, but we never know because they never publicly release the voting tallies of the Golden Globes voters, so we never know if somebody won in a landslide or won by a narrow margin. But like I've said in other videos, the People vs. O.J. Simpson, it really opened my eyes to the O.J. Simpson trial. I was alive when it happened, but I was only 4 and 5, so obviously I don't remember it during that time. I didn't learn about it until I was in my teens, but it wasn't until I watched all 10 episodes of it that I really learned about everything that went on both the prosecution and the defense. And now, having watched it, I can totally understand why it was such a giant media and pop culture sensation, both then and now. I still need to see All the Way. I can get a DVD of that from my local library. I heard Bryan Cranston is just phenomenal, and he actually reprises a role he originated on Broadway, because All the Way was originally a Broadway play, and Bryan Cranston won a Tony Award for his portrayal of President Lyndon B. Johnson, and he was nominated for an Emmy earlier this fall for the movie version, but he lost to Courtney B. Vance for the People vs. O.J. Simpson. But having seen People vs. O.J. Simpson, it's hard to argue why Courtney B. Vance didn't deserve to win, because he was so phenomenal that there really was no choice but to give him the win. But The Night Manager was an excellent limited series, and all the nominations for it here are deserved. Tom Hiddleston, Hugh Laurie, Olivia Colman, they were all excellent. If you want to see Tom Hiddleston do something outside of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, go watch it. It's a great spy thriller. If you want to see Hugh Laurie speak in his actual British accent, go watch it. He's fantastic, and he plays a very evil guy too. And Olivia Colman, she was a very fierce, intelligent character. She reminded me quite a lot of Frances McDormand's character in Fargo, partly because of the fact that in both those characters are pregnant during the course of action, but also because they're very strong, they're very independent, and they're often a lot smarter than their male counterparts. And actually, Olivia Colman's character in the original novel of The Night Manager was actually a man. So this is a role that was originally meant for a man but rewritten for a woman. So that's pretty cool. This Is Us, I've actually seen some episodes on NBC.com. It's quite an addicting show, and it's one of those shows where you have to watch the episodes from the very beginning to really understand everything. Not that it's so complex you can't follow, but because there's so many intertwining moments that if you watch the episodes out of order, it can get very confusing. But it's one of those rare network shows that's actually really good, because a lot of network shows these days have a reputation for being subpar, or just being made just to bring in a lot of ratings, but this one's actually quite good. Now, The Night Of is something I have not yet seen. That aired on HBO over the summer, I think. I personally don't have HBO, but I've heard nothing but great things about The Night Of, and I've heard like it's a very timely, limited series based on our current socio-political climate, and I'm sure it'll probably be a major player at the Emmys next year. But I'll have to see if it's out on DVD or if it's on Netflix so I can watch it. And speaking of Netflix, I may also take the time to watch that show, The Crown, which is about the reign of Queen Elizabeth II. I've heard that's a very great show. I've heard Claire Foy is great as Queen Elizabeth II, and she actually played another queen in in a mini-series called Wolf Hall. There she played Anne Boleyn, who was the second wife of King Henry VIII and the mother of Queen Elizabeth I. If you have not yet seen Wolf Hall, go watch it. It's a fantastic mini-series. And I also heard John Lithgow is very excellent as Winston Churchill in that show. And he just won the Critics' Choice Award for Best Supporting Actor in a Drama Series. From the makeup I've seen of the photos of him, it's quite a convincing look. So that's all I really have to say about the TV nominations. Now let's move on into the film. For Best Original Score, Arrival, absolutely. Hidden Figures, haven't seen it yet, but considering that Hans Zimmer and Pharrell Williams are writing the score, I'm sure that's one I definitely should pay attention to. La La Land, not surprising. I haven't seen the movie yet because it doesn't come to my area until Christmas Day. It was supposed to come out today, December 16th, as I'm recording this, but it got delayed, I guess because of Rogue One, a Star Wars story. But given that La La Land is a musical, it's no surprise to see it nominated here, and some of the songs which I've listened to are quite incredible. Haven't seen Lion yet, that comes to my area on the 21st, but Moonlight has a very beautiful haunting score, the kind of score that I'm a sucker for because I love beautiful haunting scores, especially when they have piano thrown in there, which is exactly what Moonlight is. It's like synthesizer and piano. Go give Moonlight's score a listen if you've not yet done so, or better yet, go see the movie so you can hear how that score is incorporated into the scenes. For Best Original Song, Can't Stop the Feeling. I wasn't really too fond of it at first, but it has grown on me, but I don't necessarily think it's good enough to get awards nominations. Now that it's got Critics' Choice, Golden Globe, and Grammy nominations under its belt, I have a strong feeling it's probably going to get an Oscar nomination as well, and I really hope it doesn't win. Like I said, it's not a bad song, but it's not necessarily an award-winning song either. You know, it's fine and decent for what it is, but it's just basically your typical 2016 pop song, which just so happens to be sung by Justin Timberlake, Anna Kendrick, and all the other cast members from the movie Trolls. And Trolls, the movie itself, while it's a very beautiful-looking movie, it's also a very cliched and overrated movie that tries to tell too simplistic of a story and doesn't really take the time to develop itself like it should. City of Stars from La La Land, no surprise to see that here. And it's a very beautiful song as well. Faith from Sing, I have not heard that song. That's like one of the few original songs from the movie Sing, because they mostly use songs that were written by other artists. But given that Stevie Wonder has written and performed this song, I'm sure that's probably why it's nominated here. I've heard Ariana Grande duets with him in that song. I don't really like Ariana Grande as a singer or just in general. She's come across in interviews and stuff to me as holier than thou, and she acting like she's better than everyone. She feels like she needs to lecture people that if they don't live their life this way or this way or this way, they're bad people. She said that once about being vegan and how she was proud to be a vegan and how all of us who aren't vegans are stupid for not being vegan. That really ticked me off. And then of course she had her infamous donut licking controversy, and she claimed, no, that was just me commenting on obesity in America. Yeah, no. You were licking donuts. You can't use that as an excuse. Alright, but moving away from that, Gold from Gold. I've never heard this song. I've heard of Gold the movie, but I think it's only giving a limited Christmas Day release, so it can be eligible for awards. I don't know when it's going to get a wider release. I don't know if it's going to come to my area. But again, you got a star figure in here. You got Iggy Pop being one of the writers, so I'm sure that's part of the reason why it's here. And then How Far I'll Go from Moana, a very beautiful song. Lin-Manuel Miranda is a fantastic songwriter. He's best known for his work on Broadway with musicals like In the Heights and Hamilton. And Hamilton, of course, has just become this giant pop culture juggernaut in a way that few Broadway musicals have been ever. And having watched Moana and heard the songs, it's very clear that he belongs with the Disney family. He knows how to write great songs, and considering that most of his previous background is hip-hop, and the songs in Moana are mostly not hip-hop, he's a wonderful songwriter. He's very versatile, and I hope this is just the beginning of a long collaboration with Disney for him. And the great thing about Disney is that they've had a very long history of having Broadway composers write songs for their movies. Alan Menken, for example, who wrote many songs for The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Pocahontas, etc. He came from a Broadway background too before Disney brought him into the fold. And speaking of Broadway, I also forgot to mention Benj Pasek and Justin Paul, who wrote the lyrics for City of Stars from La La Land. They too are Broadway composers. They wrote A Christmas Story, the musical, which is a musical adaptation of the movie A Christmas Story, and they recently had a new musical debut on Broadway called Dear Evan Hansen, which is not based on any movie or any book or anything like that. It's an original musical, but it's received like rave reviews across the board from theater critics. It's expected to be a major contender at the Tony Awards next year, so it looks like they too, with La La Land, are going to be very successful in both film and theater. And I believe they're also commissioned to work on the songs for the movie musical Greatest Showman on Earth, which is a circus movie musical starring Hugh Jackman. Songs I wish could have been in here were Equal Rights and or I'm So Humble from Pop Star Never Stop Never Stopping. That was definitely a little scene film from 2016, Pop Star Never Stop Never Stopping. It didn't make that much money at the box office, but it was a really brilliant satirical take on today's pop music industry, particularly on pop artists like Justin Bieber. And the songs in that movie are so hilariously bad in a good way, which is what makes them good, because of how hilariously bad they are, that you just can't help but admire them. Because the movie's about a pop star who thinks he's all that, but he's actually very, very bad in terms of having virtually no talent at all. If you have not yet seen that movie or heard those songs, go listen to them. So it's a shame none of those songs could have been included in here. For Best Animated Feature, no surprise to see Kubo and the Two Strings, Moana, and Zootopia in here. Everyone expected them to be in here. If they weren't in there, there would have been a lot of outrage, and rightfully so. My Life as a Zucchini, now that was definitely a big surprise, but I've heard a lot of great things about this film. This film is actually Switzerland's entry to the Oscars this year for Best Foreign Language Film, which is very rare because most countries don't usually send animated films as contenders. Once in a while they do, but it's not often. But the Golden Globes do like to nominate at least one or two smaller animated films, and I guess this is the one they chose. I honestly thought they were going to go for this Studio Ghibli film called The Red Turtle, because I've heard so many great things about it, particularly the fact that there's no spoken dialogue in it whatsoever. It's just animation and music, which is why many critics love it so much, because of how different it is. But maybe that'll get nominated at the Oscars. And then Sing is very surprising. This honestly surprised me. I know it's been getting some good buzz, but I honestly didn't think it would be good enough to get in here. Now, I have not yet seen the movie, but admittedly, I've not been too impressed with the trailers, because from what I've seen, there seem to be a lot of cliches and stereotypes all throughout the film, but people are saying, no, it's not the case. But I'll find out for myself when I see the movie, but I know some people who've seen it have really, really loved it, so maybe it does deserve to be in here, but I'm still surprised to see it in here because I honestly thought Finding Dory would be in here. Now I know most people don't think Finding Dory is as good as Finding Nemo, and I know a few even thought it was disappointing, but I thought it was a very good movie, and it was a huge critical success and an even more huge box office success, so I thought those two factors alone would end up getting it a nomination here, but I guess not. At least The Secret Life of Pets was not nominated. I know some people thought that was a cute, fun, animated film, but I honestly thought it was massively overrated, and the less said about Kevin Hart's character Snowball the Rabbit, the better, because that character was honestly one of the most annoying animated characters I've ever seen in my life. I'm actually starting to get a headache just thinking about that character, so moving on. For Best Foreign Language Film, haven't seen any of these, but I've heard of most of them. I've heard a lot of great things about Elle, which is directed by Paul Verhoeven, and yes, I am talking about the same Paul Verhoeven who directed Total Recall, RoboCop, Basic Instinct, Showgirls, and Starship Troopers. And then Neruda from Chile, which is about the Chilean poet Pablo Neruda. It's actually directed by the same guy who directed the movie Jackie, so he's got two films here. The Salesman I've heard a lot of great things about. It's directed by the same guy who directed the Iranian film A Separation, which won the Golden Globe and the Oscar for Best Foreign Language Film a couple years ago, and the German film Toni Erdmann, that's been getting a lot of great praise from film festivals and stuff, so that'll probably stick around throughout awards season. For Best Screenplay, Hell or High Water, Manchester by the Sea, and Moonlight all absolutely deserve their nominations here. I haven't seen La La Land yet, so I can't say. With Nocturnal Animals, it was good, and the writing was fairly good for the most part, but I honestly feel that there were some other films that were a little more worthy to be nominated here. Captain Fantastic, I thought, had an absolutely incredible screenplay, and so did Eye in the Sky, and those two films couldn't be more different from each other. Captain Fantastic is about a man played by Viggo Mortensen raising his 6 kids in the wilderness away from the materialism of society, and then Eye in the Sky is an ensemble drama about the ethics of drone warfare, and of course Nocturnal Animals deals with some very serious subject matter too, but I honestly feel Captain Fantastic and Eye in the Sky handled their subject matter better, and I feel those films had far less flaws, particularly in the writing. For Best Supporting Actor in a Motion Picture, Mahershala Ali and Jeff Bridges, very well deserved. I've not yet seen Lions, so I can't judge Dev Patel's performance, but I've heard he's incredible. Simon Helberg, now he was good in Florence Foster Jenkins. Now with Simon Helberg, you might know him best as Howard from The Big Bang Theory. Now he was good in Florence Foster Jenkins, but I honestly don't think he was good enough to get any awards nominations. I think this is just one of those performances that's going to get a Golden Globe nomination but go nowhere else. He did not get a Critics' Choice Award nomination, and as you'll see in my Screen Actors Guild Awards video, he did not get a Screen Actors Guild Awards nomination either. So if Simon Helberg actually does get an Oscar nomination for this, I will be genuinely shocked. Again, his performance wasn't bad, but nothing about it really made it stand out as awards worthy. Hugh Grant, in my opinion, would be more worthy of a Best Supporting Actor nomination. Since this is the Golden Globes and they split things into comedy and drama, Hugh Grant is nominated over in the comedy category. So yeah, I honestly would take Simon Helberg out and replace him with Lucas Hedges in Manchester by the Sea. Lucas Hedges was so excellent in that movie. He gives a very powerful performance, more powerful than you would expect any actor of his age to give. But he just nails his performance so good that he honestly deserves all the awards nominations you can give him. And it's just very upsetting that he's not nominated here because he truly, truly deserved a nomination. Now, he did get nominated at the Critics' Choice Awards. He did get nominated at the Screen Actors Guild Awards, as you'll see in my next video. and he has a very strong chance of getting nominated for an Oscar. So I don't think we'll have to worry too much about that. But still, I'm mystified that Simon Helberg appealed more to the Golden Globes voters than Lucas Hedges. I really am. And then with Aaron Taylor Johnson in Nocturnal Animals, again, he was very good in that movie, but if I had to pick a performance from Nocturnal Animals worthy of Best Supporting Actor, it honestly would have to be Michael Shannon. Michael Shannon was just incredible in Nocturnal Animals. He had some great dialogue, and just the way in which he delivered that dialogue just really made him stand out. For Best Supporting Actress, Fences comes to my area Christmas Day. I want to see that movie so badly because it looks so good, and Viola Davis is considered the front runner for the Oscars, and she'll probably win here as well. Naomi Harris was phenomenal in Moonlight. Still have to see Lion. Hidden Figures looks really good. And Michelle Williams was wonderful in Manchester by the Sea. She's not in the movie that long. Maybe she's in it for 10 minutes at the most if you put all her scenes together. But every scene she's in, she just owns it. And for Best Actor in a Motion Picture, Comedy, or Musical, Colin Farrell was really good in The Lobster. Now, I didn't love The Lobster as much as some of my other film friends have. I felt the second half was a lot weaker than the first half. However, Colin Farrell gave out an incredible performance, and I think it may be one of the best performances of his entire career. So if the movie's worth anything nominating for, it's his performance. And if the movie were to get some Oscar nominations for cinematography, that would be great too, because it looked beautiful, but the story itself had some problems. No surprise that Ryan Gosling's in here for La La Land, just because of all the awards buzz it's getting. Hugh Grant for Florence Foster Jenkins, as I mentioned earlier. Hugh Grant was phenomenal in this film, and like I said about Colin Farrell for Florence Foster Jenkins, this is one of Hugh Grant's best performances of his entire career. He'd been kind of laying low for a while, or doing movies that didn't really showcase his comedic talent that well, but this puts Hugh Grant right back in his prime, and if he were to get an Oscar nomination, he would actually be deserving of it. And it would be his very first, if that should happen to him. Jonah Hill in War Dogs, now that was a huge surprise, because War Dogs got a meh reception from critics, and it kind of floundered at the box office. It just came and went, in the wasteland of August. It just kind of had no chance against movies like Suicide Squad, but I'm surprised it stuck in the HFPA's minds that long. But then again, I have heard that Jonah Hill and Miles Teller's performances were the best thing about that movie, but there's no way Jonah Hill will win this. If he does, that'll be one of the biggest surprises ever. And then I know a lot of people are very happy for this, for Ryan Reynolds in Deadpool. I was wondering if he would actually get nominated here. The Globes have nominated a few superhero performances, particularly Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight, but I didn't know if this would be the kind of film that would appeal to them, Deadpool, but it is, and it's not only nominated here, but also for Best Motion Picture, Comedy, or Musical. But then again, 2016 was a year where there weren't so many great comedies. There were a lot more bad than good, which seems to be the fate almost every year, sadly. For Best Actress in a Motion Picture, Comedy, or Musical, I've not yet seen 20th Century Women. That doesn't come to my area until January 20th, but I've heard Annette Bening is fantastic in that movie. Lily Collins in Rules Don't Apply. Now, she's very good in the movie, but Rules Don't Apply, I thought, as a movie in and of itself, was very disappointing. I felt the story was unfocused, the pacing was extremely slow. I honestly felt like the movie was 4 hours long instead of just 2. But the acting is its saving grace. However, if we were to nominate a great performance from an actual good film, I think a better choice would have been Sally Field for Hello, My Name is Doris. Now, Hello, My Name is Doris came out all the way back in March, I believe, but it was a fantastic film, not necessarily among the absolute best of the year, but it was a great film for showing a story you don't usually see about a woman played by Sally Field who falls in love with her much younger coworker, and she does all these crazy things to win his attention. It's a kind of story about uh, older people that you don't normally see in a movie, and it breaks away from the elderly stereotypes you often see in movies and television. Plus, Sally Field is just a phenomenal actress in general. Like, almost every performance she gives becomes worthy of awards attention. So, and Hello, My Name is Doris was no different. Like, this was a performance that I felt at least deserved a Golden Globe nomination. So, for that reason, it's sad that she's not nominated here. Again, Lily Collins was not bad in Rules Don't Apply, but because the film itself was disappointing as a whole, she never really got to stand out. Because there's so many intertwining stories in that movie that none of them really get a chance to be fleshed out. However, Haley Steinfeld and Meryl Streep are very well deserving of their nominations, and I'm sure Emma Stone is well deserving of hers. For Best Actor in a Motion Picture Drama, the only one I've not yet seen is Denzel Washington in Fences. However, these other four are absolutely well deserving. Casey Affleck is heartbreaking in Manchester by the Sea. Joel Edgerton is quiet and stoic, but very firm and loving, about a man who just wants to live a good life with his wife and raise their family, even though during the time period of the movie, which is the 1960s, their marriage was considered illegal due to the fact that Joel Edgerton's character is white and his wife, played by Ruth Negga, is black, because back in the day in several states interracial marriage actually was illegal, and it was the Lovings, Richard and Mildred Loving, who are depicted in this film. It was their court case involving their interracial marriage that ended up going to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ended up ruling in their favor, saying no state could forbid someone from marrying just because they're of two different races. So they're responsible for helping to make interracial marriage legal in all 50 states. Andrew Garfield was excellent in Hacksaw Ridge. I don't think Hacksaw Ridge is among the absolute best films of the year like others do. I thought some of the dialogue, particularly the romantic dialogue during the scenes where Andrew Garfield and Teresa Palmer begin their relationship with each other, I felt some of that dialogue was too cheesy and corny for a serious war film. But other than that, the rest of the film was fantastic, and Garfield's performance is the main reason why, where he plays a real-life World War II hero who never actually fired any bullets on the battlefield due to his religious beliefs. He was a medic instead, but he managed to save 75 soldiers' lives during the Battle of Okinawa, one of the bloodiest battles of the war. And Viggo Mortensen in Captain Fantastic. I talked about that film a little bit earlier. It's about a man who raises his 6 children in the wilderness because he feels society is too corrupt and materialistic. But then when his wife dies, and that's not a spoiler because it's mentioned in the trailer, he's forced to re-enter society with his children and make some big decisions about his children's future. For Best Actress in a Motion Picture Drama, I've only seen Arrival and Loving, but Amy Adams and Ruth Negga are very well deserving. Miss Sloane is in theaters. I'm going to make sure to see that as soon as possible because I love Jessica Chastain. I don't know if Elle will come to my area, but Isabelle Huppert is considered one of France's great actresses. They call her the French Meryl Streep. And Jackie comes to my area on the 21st, and just from the poster itself, Natalie Portman looks perfect as Jacqueline Kennedy, and from what I've seen in the trailer, she looks incredible. She nails the mid-Atlantic accent that Jacqueline Kennedy was known for. For Best Director Motion Picture, very glad to see Kenneth Lonergan and Barry Jenkins here for Manchester by the Sea and Moonlight. No surprise to see Damien Chazelle here for La La Land. Mel Gibson for Hacksaw Ridge. I know a lot of people are happy about that. Tom Ford for Nocturnal Animals. I know some people may be happy about that, but I honestly feel there were a lot more better directed films I think David Mackenzie for Hell or High Water should have been nominated here over Tom Ford, because Hell or High Water is one of those films that's in almost every critic's top 10 list, and Nocturnal Animals may be in a few top 10 lists, but not all of them. For Best Motion Picture, Comedy, or Musical, like I said before, Deadpool's in here, which I know should make a lot of people happy. Florence Foster Jenkins, that deserves to be there. La La Land, nobody's surprised to see that there. Sing Street, I've heard great things about. I didn't get to see it in theaters, but I think it's on Netflix now, so I'll make sure to watch it. And 20th Century Women, of course, is on here, because that's been getting great reviews. You know, this is always an interesting category because there's not necessarily a lot of ha ha ha, laugh out loud comedies, but part of the reason why is because many of those comedies are either horrible or good but not great. And then Best Motion Picture Drama, all of these look very good. Can't really complain about what I see. But there's one film I'm surprised that hasn't shown up here at all, and that's Silence, the new Martin Scorsese film, which stars Adam Driver, Andrew Garfield, and Liam Neeson, and it's set in 17th century Japan, and it involves Jesuit priests going to Japan to find their mentor who disappeared and convert the Japanese to Christianity. You know, that's been getting a lot of buzz from years because Scorsese has wanted to make this movie for like 25 years, and it actually just screened at the Vatican where Scorsese got to meet Pope Francis. And early word of mouth from critics has been really positive, but since it just started screening like right around the time that the nomination process was taking place for the Golden Globes, many voters probably didn't get the chance to see it, and that probably also happened with the Screen Actors Guild Awards too, because as I'll talk about in my video for that, Silence didn't get nominated there either. But if you're worried about whether that will impact Silence's chances at the Oscars, I wouldn't be too worried. American Sniper and True Grit got no Golden Globe nominations when they came out, but both of those films went on to become major Oscar contenders. None of them walked away with the top honors, but they were still big players nonetheless. And given Martin Scorsese's reputation with the Oscars, I would find it very hard. I can't really find any reason why voters would deliberately ignore his next film. So I'm sure that's probably one of their most anticipated films that they're looking to watch before they fill out their Best Picture ballot and their ballot for everything else, depending on what branch they're in. And those are my overall thoughts on the Golden Globe Awards nominations. Some very good nominations, some very shocking snubs, but that's the way it is with every award show. The Golden Globes, I think, are trying to be better in their nominations because they've had a reputation for a long time of nominating people just for their popularity and not necessarily whether they actually deserve to be nominated, but I'd say many of these people nominated here this year did deserve to be nominated. There are a few nominees that stand out to me as just pure popularity grabs, but thankfully there doesn't seem to be that many this year. So I do think they're trying to make an effort to be more conscientious of what they nominate, and I do think they're trying to make a better effort to be more aware of what they nominate and nominate it for its merit alone. So hopefully that will also be the case with the Golden Globe winners. We'll find out on Sunday, January 8th when the ceremony takes place. But thank you guys so much for watching, and please leave a comment below in the comment section and tell me what you think of the Golden Globe nominations. What do you like? What do you not like? What do you think got snubbed? And be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. I'll be uploading more videos in the coming weeks and months about these award shows. So stay tuned for those, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!